Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back as the case may be. Glad you could make it. I'm talking today about something that affects all human beings that I have ever met, anyway. I did once tell my husband I didn't think that he was fearful of anything. And he said, yes, he was. And I asked him what, and he said, flying monkeys. Apparently, the Wizard of Oz scarred him quite badly when he was young. But at any rate, fear is part of humanity. It's who we are as humans to be fearful. But resisting fear and moving toward it is something that's part of being a modern human. Uh, we're not built to get past it. We are descended from those who headed back to the cave when they got scared, because the ones who didn't get scared and didn't go back to the cave didn't end up joining the gene pool, so to speak. But I'm going to lump fear and anxiety together in what I'm talking about right now because effectively, fear is the response to a perceived threat, and anxiety is about something that hasn't yet and may not happen. However, in a world that we live in where perception becomes reality to the largest extent, or you have to act like it is, then it doesn't really matter whether you're scared of a job interview or the movement of the grass next to you that may well be a snake. The difference is only in the response time. I can run pretty fast when I have to. But one of the things my husband and I have talked about a lot is that it seems like anxiety has just become an epidemic for a lot of reasons, none of which I'll go into because they don't matter. Um, so I got interested in whether anxiety has actually gotten worse over the years, and I went looking, found a very interesting survey, and I'll link it in the description below, that said between 2008 and 2018, anxiety nearly doubled in humans between 17 to 25 years old. Interestingly enough, the, those of us who are over 50 uh, went into our 50s at about 4% of us being anxious, and still were about the same number 10 years later. Basically, if you go into your 50s anxious, you stay that way. Or only 4% get anxious if they get rid of it. But at any rate, that's kind of an aside. But one of the things I hear a lot is that young folks aren't anxious. It's just being recognized more because they're willing to talk about it more. And it's recognized more because that's what the medical profession does, is keep themselves in business. And that's not actually true. Ancient Greeks thought it was a medical problem as well. And generalized anxiety disorder actually popped up in the DSM, which is the Bible for psychiatrists, in the 1960s. So I'm not talking about panic attacks, but more about that generalized stuff. And all I can give you is my experience. And I just heard my cat come in, so she's going to try to distract me. I'll do my best to get through this. At any rate, because there ain't no point in having a panic attack about this one. So, uh, when I'm talking about anxiety and I'm talking about my experience, I have found that it is always involved with failure. Whether I think I'm going to fail, whether I think something about me or something I'm trying to do is going to fail. Part of that is because I have a failed 27-year marriage in my past. And I was scared to remarry after I walked away from a bankruptcy and a man who didn't seem to care whether I lived or died. But 1 year and 1 month after I left him, I remarried to my current and final husband. And in the meantime, I drove everyone nuts until I finally let the women in my life take over and walk down the aisle. And 15 years later, I'm still walking down that aisle and I'm still enjoying life with my amazing husband. But I was scared. I was scared to death. I ran at it anyway. And the run up to that wedding is actually starkly real to me. Nobody wants to see your butt on camera. Would you please stop doing that? But the amazing man that was waiting for me is, of course, part of my everyday existence now. But the memory of the time as I was moving toward marrying him is just exquisite in the sense that I enjoyed that sense of fizz and freedom that goes along with it. I've always been that person, though. Well, I was after I left my ex. But for instance, I've always been scared of high dives. Never really wanted to go off of one, but on a trip to Balmorhea, Texas, with my new husband and my new family, I went off of the high dive at a chubby little trot. Fast enough so that I didn't have the chance to change my mind at the end of it. And I survived, obviously. I didn't like hitting the water at high speed, but what I remember is the run down that high dive board. And I'm not perfect. I will admit that people who won't head toward the things that they're fearful of frustrate me. It's not my finest trait. And I encourage folks to do it though, because even the failures, even the ones that just were awful, and none of those include my current marriage, but just all of them gave me that high dive feeling as I was going down that high dive board to jump off the end. And this is what Emerson actually meant when he said, it's not the destination, it's the journey. So I've had a lot of journeys. I'm on my fifth or possibly sixth business, not counting failures, because who cares? But I remember the run up to them, and I did my damnedest to win. I promise you, I did not go into any of them thinking I would fail. Also, possibly part of my flawed personality, but I loved building the businesses. I loved being able to think about what I could do to change the world with each one of them every single time. It's hard to convince those who are anxious and scared that trying is honestly more fun than anything. And it's because you're scared that it's so much fun. Every session of trying to accomplish amazing things gives you a hit of dopamine. And look, I'm not talking about necessarily physical risk taking. I'm not giving advice to base jump or tightrope or even ride motorcycles. I tried riding motorcycles. My brother had bruised ribs for approximately 2 weeks because I grasped him so tightly when he went around a corner on a motorcycle when I was riding behind. I have no urge to get on a motorcycle. I don't run at every single thing that scares me because there's a lot of things in this life that scare me. I'm not running toward a gun. That's one of the things where you got to have a little bit of sense. But Emerson did not say that you have to do the same journey over and over again. Just make the journey. The dopamine bluntly is easier to get from running toward what scares you than exercise. Well, it has been anyway for me. But winning isn't necessarily everything. I'm sure you've heard that particular saying. And sometimes it's not at all what you hoped it would be. You cannot predict the future, and God knows I'm not any good at it. But the journey has always been worth it. So am I batshit crazy? I've lost a lot, and I've lost enough to know that being crazy is always possible. But I'm on YouTube and I'm trying and I'm building purses, even though the last one was an abject failure. And I'm crocheting things. This is something I literally just finished last night, the cardigan that I'm wearing right now. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. There's always a possibility within everything that you do. Some things don't want to be created, but that's not a tragedy. It's a lesson. I'll make something else, and I'll make something else after that because it's fun and it's scary. And it's just like making these videos. I enjoy the living crap out of it, both making videos and making the things that I do. What scares you? What are you going to do about it? That's the next question. Glad you were here. Hope to see you again in the next video. Ain't no telling what I'm going to be talking about at that point. Bye.